What's a nice Jewish lady doing telling Bible stories about Jesus? Stay tuned. Find out next on The Crossover.
For nearly 2,000 years, Jews and Christians have been divided. But now, God is calling for the healing of past hurts and the comforting of His people. Discover how God is prophetically uniting Jews and Christians across the world today on The Crossover. And now, here is your host, Mitch Jerome.
Welcome to The Crossover. This is Mitch Jerome, and today we're in New York, Long Island, and we have the honor of spending a few minutes here with Sharon Cover-Olanek, who is a storyteller. And Sharon, welcome to The Crossover.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad you're here.
Sharon, you went to the High School of Performing Arts, obviously in your teen days, and then you had to go to work, make a living, and here you are now as a grandmother, and you're doing your passion, performing, being a storyteller. How does that feel that later on in life and you're getting to hit your hot button?
I think it's great. It's getting to do your heart's desire. Finally, you've done everything that you had to do, and now it's getting to a point that I'm doing something that I really want and love to do. Hello, I want to speak to you today. I have to tell you about who I met, someone who knew so much about me. I couldn't imagine. He knew everything about me, and moreover, he knew my heart. I'll tell you what happened. I was at the well. I was walking at the well, usually at the 6th hour, when the women weren't there so much. And I put my jar down. I like to do this quickly to get away from everyone. And I heard a voice, a gentle voice. And the voice said to me, "Give me drink." I turned around to see who said it, and there was a Jew. Well, it made me feel even less than I was, because what is a Jew doing speaking to a Samaritan woman? And I said, "So, what are you speaking to me, a Samaritan woman?" And he said to me, "If you knew who I was, you would truly ask me to give you a drink." And I said to him, "Sir, you don't even have a jar, anything to draw water with. How can you give me something to drink?" And he said, "For what I have to give you, you would never thirst again." And I said, "What is this drink that you have that I would never thirst again, sir?" And so he said to me, "I'll tell you, go bring your husband, and I'll tell you more of this drink that you will never thirst again." And I said to him, "Sir, I have no husband." And he said, "You do well to tell me so, for you've had 5 husbands." And then when he spoke to me, I saw there was no condemnation in his voice. It was just a love that enveloped me. And he spoke to me of things that no one else could know. He spoke of the Spirit. And he spoke, and I said to him, "All the things you say to me, our fathers told us that there would come one called the Christ, the Messiah." And he said, "I am He." So now, He's spoken to my spirit, and I speak to you, and I say to you, come and hear of this man. Come and speak with him. Come and hear how he speaks to you of your spirit. And I say to you, that this truly, truly is Messiah, truly is the one our Father spoke about. And the spring of water that he speaks about is an unending one that will fill your spirit for all eternity.
The Crossover presents Biblical Arts.
Weisblatt was born and raised in Jerusalem, Israel, and began dancing at the age of 5. Rachel has continuously been involved in Jewish education at local synagogues, teaching Hebrew, Jewish history, preparing children for their bar and bat mitzvahs, and teaching Israeli folk dancing to both children and adults. She recently was honored by her students as they celebrated her many years of consistent dedication and commitment to her Monday evening dance class.
Yeah, there are many reasons for many of our songs and dances that have sources of wanting to praise God and to thank God for miracles and for helping Israel and remembering Israel. Beginning with biblical times, beginning with Miriam that sang and danced with songs of praise to God after watching the great miracle that had happened when the Israelites crossed the Red Sea. We have one group of dances that are Hora dances. Hora is a family name of a group of dances that are usually very energetic and very joyous. And it probably started in modern time with the pioneers that came to Israel more than 100 years ago. Many of them came from Eastern Europe to rebuild Israel. And they had no money, they were poor, they were hungry, and conditions in Israel were very bad. The country, most of the country was desert-like, and in the north we had swamps. And they had to fight the desert, then they had to fight the swamps. People were dying of malaria. And this was really a tough time. The only way that they could pick up their spirit and support each other was in the evening getting together with songs and dances. And they would dance the Hora. They would just have several simple steps of Hora. And they would dance the Hora over and over and over for hours. And those dances have lifted up the spirit of these people and brought togetherness. This was a great support to these people. Then we also have the Debka dances, which originally were men line dances. They were farmers' dances that loved the soil and always have thanks to give for the good harvest. They wanted to be close to the earth. They wanted to show their love to the earth. And their dances and their steps were heavy on the ground because the music is very enjoyable and there are a lot of energetic steps. And because of the complicated patterns sometimes, not all the dances, some of the dances are easy and have easy patterns, and then others are more challenging.
Welcome back to The Crossover.
Okay, I'm exhausted. I come here, yes, I know I'm talking about Passover. All right, let me now start. I'll talk about the Passover to you. I'm starting from the story of when my brother, he was a prince. Yes, my brother was a real prince, not just because he was a boy, but he was a real prince. And I'll now tell you the story. It happened a long time ago when Pharaoh Pui was sending all the Jewish boys into the Nile River, and my mother, she should rest in peace, she was very quiet. She's making a basket, she's weaving the basket, and my father said, "Are you crazy? What do you know? He's 3 months old, what are we going to do?" And my mother was just very quiet. She took me by the hand and she brought me to the river, the Nile River, and she took the basket, and she had worked on it a long time, and she took my brother Moshe and she put him in the basket, and she said, Miriam, follow him and God will be with you. And I was so frightened. I remember, because I remember the screaming and the yelling that went on when he was a little boy. Because Pharaoh said, all the boys in Israel, all the boys of the Hebrew people in Goshen were to be killed. So my mother pushed the basket out, and I followed until I came to an opening, and I saw there such beautiful women, and I hid lower so they shouldn't see me. And the basket got caught. And the most beautiful one of all, she was all in gold. I remember all in gold. And she said, bring me the basket. And one woman came to me, and I was so scared, I stopped breathing. And they brought the basket, and she took the basket and opened it. And she said, look. And all of a sudden, from that gorgeous, he was such a gorgeous baby with such a laugh. He started to laugh, and she laughed. And you know, I remember she picked him up, and she said, I'll call him Moses, because the Nile God brought him to me. And then I'm remembering screaming and the yelling and the screaming, but this time not from Goshen. This time from all of Egypt, the crying and the screaming. You know, all the plagues, the 10 plagues with the frogs and the blood, and finally the firstborn. And then they told us all to go. And they threw things at us. They threw jewelry at us. They threw all these things to go. And then I remember, now Moses, my Moshe, I remember him putting up his staff, and the seas parted, and we walked through on dry ground. All of us. So we were so unbelievable. They're looking at the fish were looking at us. And then Pharaoh's army's coming, and the sea crashing down on them. And then, you know, we wandered in the desert. We did these terrible things, and we wandered like Michiganers in the desert. You know, you have to come to think of it. A God takes a people, not just a little people, not just a few, a bunch, a whole nation of people, and he leads them by day, and he warms them by night, and he does such wonderful miracles. And you've got to really think what a bunch of Michiganers not to believe that this God who is doing this is the creator of the universe. And you're going to complain, and you're going to want stuff until I remember quail coming out of our noses, and still we were disobedient. And so we wandered in the desert for 40 years like that. Why? Because of disbelief. You don't believe a God like that. I'm telling you, what kind of people when you don't believe him? You better walk with him. Let me tell you, I remember the time, let me tell you, when Aaron and I were complaining against Moses, leprosy. Let me tell you, you don't want to do something against this God because you don't want to get on his wrong side. Let me tell you about that. Let me tell you.
Once again, here is Mitch Jerome.
So we just saw you perform. We just saw you take on different character roles, and you drew us right in. And do you have a favorite character that you really will get passionate about portraying?
I have several. They're all wonderful characters of the Bible, but yes, I do, Mitch. I do have one, and that is Mary or Miriam.
Why is she your favorite? Does something happen to you when you characterize her?
It brings me very close to the fact that this was just a simple girl, a simple woman that God chose for this miraculous thing to happen to her, that she would be the mother of the Messiah. And yet, in this fantastic thing, she still is just a woman, a mother, someone who sees her child die the way he did. She was really the first Christian, the first one who... There's so many things that I want to say about her. What must have gone through her mind, thinking of all the things that the prophets, when she brought him to temple to dedicate him, all the things that she had to experience with him. She's just a fantastic personality, just to think of her as someone who was actually raising her son, who to me, I believe, was a normal kid, except that he was God. And to know, between Joseph and her, to know, were they even capable of raising this child? And I just think the whole thing about her is fantastic.
We will be right back. For nearly 2,000 years, Jews and Christians have been divided. But now, God is calling for the healing of past hurts and the comforting of His people. Discover how God is prophetically uniting Jews and Christians across the world today on The Crossover. The Crossover exists to communicate to the Jewish community that there is a growing group of Christians who love them unconditionally. The focus of the Crossover program is to promote a greater understanding of the differences and similarities between Jewish and Christian customs, history, and theology, while encouraging a closer walk with the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. As a second-generation Holocaust survivor, Rosalie's Jewish heritage includes parents who were protected from the Nazis by Christians. Yet for more than a decade, Mitch and Rosalie searched for meaning in life in the New Age movement. But after returning to their Judeo-Christian roots, they discovered God's purpose for their lives: to rebuild bridges between Christians and Jews. Now through TV, radio, the internet, speaking engagements, the healing room, and print and video resources, they are reuniting Jews and Christians in fulfillment of biblical prophecy. Join Mitch and Rosalie as they tackle tough topics and welcome dynamic guests on The Crossover. The Promised Land.
And I also tried to make it very clear to the Christians all over the world that they are threatened to the same extent as the Jews and Israel are threatened. And I also say basically that Jews and Christians are waiting for the Messiah, who is a Jew from Israel who speaks Hebrew. And that Messiah is going to come to Jerusalem. And so Christians share this faith with the Jews.
The Hebraic roots of Christianity.
And we began looking at Jesus through Jewish spectacles and not our Texas spectacles or American spectacles or even Western culture spectacles. He's so much more glorious. He's so much more grand. It does not in any way detract from the fact that he's the Son of God, the risen Savior, but he's also a man.
Judaism 101.
Many times people ask, what is a Jew? Is it a race? Is it a people? Is it a culture?
Jewish-Christian relations. Bible, fact or fiction? For more information on The Crossover and The Crossover Project, contact Rosalie Jerome at 832-287-5057. or log on to our website. Welcome back to The Crossover.
You're bringing us back 6,000 years when you take on these Bible characters. Do you really believe this is relevant in the century that we're living in today? There's still a message?
Absolutely. It's a living message, it's a living word. And as I just said, mothers today go through the same feelings of raising a child.
Sharon, just like mother and child, as you just alluded to in the story here, biblically, had a hardship. You also in life had a hardship with your child. How did that change your life?
Well, yes, I did. It means a lot to me, this story, because my testimony is this. My daughter, when she was small, when she was young, 11 years old, I had to commit her into a psychiatric hospital, and I wanted to die. I couldn't imagine a Jewish woman having to do, not being able to raise her child, and having lost control. And so I had asked a friend of mine to go out with me, and she said she was going to a church and I wouldn't be interested in it. And I said, well, God is everywhere, so I really need to go with you. And it happened to be a Pentecostal church, which is, as you know, is very different from anything that Jewish people know in worshiping Hashem. And I began to listen, and I was very blessed that I had the pastor at that church was very Jewish oriented. And when I would ask him questions and I would search my heart, and he would tell me to search my heart, and if Jesus really was the Messiah, I was very concerned also. I said I wasn't going to convert. I mean, I wasn't going to turn to Catholicism, and I was Jewish, and that's it. And I'm a Jewish woman, and that's what I want to be. And he told me, I can't convert. You can't convert to us, he said. We convert to you, because we are engrafted into the natural branch, the olive branch. And I prayed a lot, and I realized that I came to realize that Jesus was the Messiah, and I accepted him as such. And I have to say this, my situation with my daughter didn't really change. We had to go through much hardship, but I have a peace. The Lord in his word says that he gives you a peace that surpasses all understanding. And you asked again, is it relevant to today? And I say, yes, it's more than relevant today in what is going on in the world, throughout the world. The peace that Yeshua, that Jesus gives, that is the only way I could have survived it. And throughout my life, I believe that peace that he gives us and the knowledge that he's with us is the only way we can go through life. I can't imagine going through life without him. When I came into this church, this Pentecostal church, one of the things that I said, I noticed about him is, as he told me that I was a natural branch and that it was impossible to be converted, it was very, very different than anything that I had known. Usually, if you go to church, I believe, and I've had Catholic friends, and they really weren't very loving of Jewish people. A matter of fact, when I was little, I had an experience where another little girl actually called me a Christ killer, and that was in first grade. So that really was my first real opening to Catholic people, that they really weren't very accepting of Jewish people. And I was very surprised with the way he treated me, the way he spoke to me. And as I said, I came to know the Lord on my own terms, and there was no pressure in that.
Sharon, when we see you perform as a Samaritan woman, or as Mary, mother of Jesus, or whatever role you're taking on in the Bible there, you're speaking before Jewish audience, you're speaking before Christian audiences. What is your heart's desire?
All right, this storytelling, this is what it means to me. It means that when I'm telling the story to Jews, that they can see that Messiah is who he says he is. And when I see that there is a Christian audience there, what I would like to see from them is that they realize that they just didn't sprout out of nowhere, that it has come from a Jewish background, and that he is the Jewish Messiah. And this is what I'm trying to see, that there is no difference. I'm trying to show that we are just one in him.
Sharon, thank you for having us in your home, and we're glad to have you on the crossover, and maybe we can do this another time and see you in some other Bible character roles.
Thank you so very much. It's been a pleasure.
Enjoyed. Thank you for joining us on the crossover, where we're joining Jews and Christians through our God. And remember, these are prophetic times, and God is at work. Shalom.
Join Mitch and Rosalie as they reach an ever-growing worldwide audience through the crossover. We invite you to become a crossover partner right now by calling the number on your screen. For your monthly gift of $30 or more, you will receive the Crossover Partnership Pack, which includes a DVD of today's program, a personal greeting and prayer message from Mitch and Rosalie, more information about the Crossover Project. As you continue to support the Crossover each month, you will receive a new Crossover DVD, a monthly ministry report, and your name will be added to the Healing Room. Call now or log on to our website and join the growing family of Crossover Partners. And be sure to join us again next week as Mitch and Rosalie tackle timely topics and welcome dynamic guests on The Crossover.
Lord God of Abraham, Isaac and Israel, let it be known today that you are God. We offer up our lives as a living sacrifice.